My husband had an affair while I had postpartum depression and made me take care of our son all by myself. Now he's acting like it never happened and calling me a cold-hearted gold digger. When my husband, 29M, and I, 27F, decided to have a child, I thought we had a happy marriage and a financially stable future. My pregnancy was high risk, and with the health complications, I was going to end up using a good chunk of my medical leave before our baby was born. So, together, we decided that I'd quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom for a few years and then go back into the workforce. After our son was born, I had postpartum depression and severe anxiety. I had complications in recovery, and there was no help from family on either side. I'm low contact with my family, and my mother-in-law had passed away, with my father-in-law having no interest in helping. My husband expected me to be a full-time housewife as soon as we got home with the baby, and stop helping with anything home or baby-related because it was my job now. I was lucky to get involved with a mom's group that helped me a lot because otherwise, I was very lonely and stressed. When our son was 10 months old, I discovered some messages on my husband's phone indicating that he was having an affair. I don't know when it started, but a lot of his late-night work sessions were because of that. At that time, my mental health was not good, and I became scared that he would divorce me and take my baby. My reaction wasn't even anger at him, it was as if my love for him had disappeared and was replaced by abject fear. I didn't confront him, and he didn't realize that I knew. I ignored it and tried to deal with all my issues myself while living in constant fear of getting kicked out without my son. I know that wasn't a reasonable assumption, and I have rights, but I can't explain why my head was stuck in that mode back then. I moved into my son's room, separating myself from my husband but continuing to be a good stay-at-home mom. The sad thing is that he didn't even have a reaction when I wasn't living in our room anymore. I provided him with home-cooked meals, maintained a clean house, and allowed him to play with our son whenever he was home, but he didn't care about me at all. When our son turned 2, I got a job and needed to enroll him in daycare. My husband opposed the idea because he liked how things were and wasn't willing to pay for it. Despite his opposition, I went ahead and got employed, and the majority of my paycheck goes to cover the daycare expenses. The rest is allocated for my car payment, with a very small portion reserved for savings. Over the last few weeks, my husband has been home more, acting depressed. I found out that his affair partner has dumped him, and now he's acting like the past 3 years were normal and wants intimacy and regular relations with me. I told him that our relationship was over when he stepped out of his marriage, and that he can go start a different affair if the first one didn't pan out. He got angry about that and accused me of being a cold-hearted gold digger. He put me through agony and hell, and I am here because I love my son and want to be with him every day, not 50% of the custody, so I am dealing with it. However, he believes he's the wrong party here. I have become accustomed to the situation, and I am okay with us living separately like roommates and raising our son. I don't care who he dates or loves or has relationships with. If things change down the line when my son is going to school and is less dependent on me, or if I fall in love with someone else, then yeah, I'd file for divorce, and if he wants to start the divorce first, that's okay too. I have consulted with a divorce lawyer already, and I know I'll get half of the equity in our house, half of his 401k, and other child support or shared expenses for our son's needs. Living in this house with our son is more convenient for me right now. He is arguing that because I didn't say anything when I found out about the affair, I have no right to bring it up now that it is over. My parents agree with him and say that since I chose to ignore the affair, it has no bearing on our relationship now. My husband wants to go into marriage counseling, but I don't see a point to that. The only 2 options acceptable to me are the status quo, as it is now, or divorce. If I divorce, the amount of child support I can get would help with utilities and expenses, but only partially towards rent. I'll still need a job to afford housing and half of daycare. I'd love to go back to school, but I am not able to fund it with a baby in tow. Would I be morally wrong if I stick around for another few years so I have 100% custody and also comfortable living while my baby is so little? Edit. I am making 60% of what I was earning before I quit my job. It was an office job in marketing, not very lucrative, but I had a career. I'm struggling to crawl back into the same place, and it will take time for me to compensate for the gap in my resume. With what I make now, I can't afford housing in a good school district. Update 1. We have been having non-stop arguments. I tried disengaging and gray rocking, but that didn't help. He swings between expressing love and being around all the time to yelling and raging at me. I agreed to couples counseling with the goal of having a better co-parenting arrangement. He told the counselor he still wants the marriage to work out. We had some properly organized discussions, and we were both asked to lay out our resentments. Mine was a years-long affair, obviously. I don't think anything beyond that needs to be said, but of course, there's the neglect, the lack of help, the absence from home, and the fact that I have to pay for our son's daycare without any contribution from him. His list of resentments was a doozy. He says that I ruined his experience of becoming a father because I was difficult and neurotic. My painful pregnancy and medical complications were unnecessary drama to him. When we agreed that I'd be a stay-at-home mom until our son started school, he was envisioning a picture-perfect home with a beautiful wife and child who catered to his every need. He's upset that the reality was nothing like that and is convinced that I tricked him. He's a selfish idiot, but he was also encouraged and enabled by people around him who talked this up, including my parents. I've always known that my parents didn't love me much, but I have come to realize that they resent me and look down on me. The first year of our son's life, he was a bit sickly, so he was clingy to me, and my husband resents me for that too. Now that our son's a healthy toddler who can run around and throw a ball, he's more interested in engaging with him. The entire thing was a pretty painful exercise for me, and I restarted my own individual therapy. I had made myself numb to his actions and was ignoring issues to focus on my son, but my husband did a good job of opening up all the scabs. I learned a lot more than I wanted to about his affair partner too. Now that I am physically recovered, lost a lot of weight, ironically from the stress of it all, and look well put together, I am good enough to be his partner again. Anyway, I filed for divorce. I think it'll take a year and then some for it to go through, but I'll stay here and not move out until we sell the house and divide assets.